So, I know I just made a video, but whatever. So I'm going to talk about animal rights activists. So, now this, this kind of came up from, on the weekend I went to a family party, and I was talking with my cousin, who has her education for vet tech, but mostly works, with kind of like zoos and, performing animals and stuff like that. So, she has to deal with a lot of animal rights activists, and even for like just basic things like pets. I've seen some bullshit animal rights. Animal rights activists don't actually care about the animals. They just wanna like be a piece of shit. Sorry, but really that's how it often happens, because she's talking about this elephant that she she was the assistant trainer for before she got her degree in vet tech, and this that elephant loved performing, and so all these animal rights activists were constantly getting mad at protesting and doing all this shit and everything else, and she's like, well, no, come and see how interact with the elephant. Like, the elephant loves people. In fact, when the elephant was dying, because old age, the main trainer who had worked with her for like I think 20 years or something, was so worried about her that he was sleeping in her pen with her. And the thing about elephants, when when an elephant is dying, they'll start to lie down, so the other elephants will make sure that they don't lie down, because if they lie down they can't get back up again. So when the trainer was going to sleep in the pen with her, and was lying down on her pile of hay, she kept on like using her trunk to pull him back, try to pull him back up to make sure he didn't lie down, so that because she was worried about him. And whenever they'd be doing tricks for the show, she'd be making all sorts of happy noises, and she'd be stomping around all happy and everything else, and yet animal rights activists were constantly berating the company that was with that elephant, and that elephant had plenty of room to go everywhere and all this other stuff, and they're saying, oh, you're abusing her because you're making her do tricks and stuff. It's like, no, she enjoys doing the tricks, because something that, and I've seen people on videos with like ferrets, let's say pet ferrets, showing things about pet ferrets, and I've seen some comments like, you're being so mean, you're being so cruel to that animal, keeping it cooped up in the house, it's not natural, all this other bullshit. And it's like, he likes living with us. And, if a zoo gives the animal plenty of room to play and grow and whatever, and, make sure they have the right food and feeding and whatnot, then they're not bad off. So, like, all these people who are all against this stuff, and it's kind of like we're taking over all the nature, so we have to get the animals to live with us, because obviously there's no more room for them to live by themselves. And the thing that always gets me is when people get pissed off because they're doing an animal, doing tricks for a show. And you're like, oh, you're making money off the animal. The thing is, it costs a lot to take care of an animal, so most of that money oftentimes goes back to the animal. And people always say, like, oh, you're being so cruel, you're making the animal do tricks. Do you see that when your dog does tricks? Because here's the thing, animals are intelligent, like elephants are very intelligent, but when you have an intelligent mind, that mind needs stimulation. So, like, doing tricks, is mental stimulation. It's something to do so you're not bored, because, like, we play sports and games and stuff like that. Elephants in the wild play games and, do tricks for each other. It is kind of natural. So, and I have a mouse here even, and she's like freakishly smart for a mouse. Like, I'm not just being, my pet is the best pride, but like, she literally is freakishly smart for a mouse. And I need to give her a lot of stimulation because she'll get really bored and depressed. So, and one thing that people don't realize about domesticated animals is that they, mental health wise, are, as long as they're being treated nicely and everything, given enough food and, respect and all this other stuff, they're actually better off than in the wild, because something that domestic pets have that wild animals don't: safety. They don't have to worry about being hunted down or like, being constantly on their watch. They can just relax and do whatever, because they have safety, and they have regular source of food, so they don't have to worry about, getting the food, and they have, climate control environments, and like, it's pretty awesome for a pet. They get stuff all the time just for being them. And something like people always want to release all these domesticated animals out in the wild, you know, because they think it'll be better for them. Thing is that if they're domesticated, that means they cannot live in the wild anymore because they don't know how to take care of themselves because they're so used to that safety, shelter, and food that they get without having to do anything for it. So yeah, like, the person I bought my mice from, actually, he ran a reptile shelter out of his home, because a lot of people will buy snakes, realize that they don't want a pet snake, and then just let it go in the wild, here in Canada. Not a lot of snakes live in Canada, like garter snakes, and that's about it. So they can't survive in the wild, these pythons and corn snakes and everything else. And, you know, I remember one time, back when I had my rats in my other apartment, and a coworker of mine said that there was someone who had a pet rat that they didn't want anymore, but it was a girl and I had boys, and I couldn't afford to buy another cage for her. I would have loved to take her in, but, you know, male plus female rats equals a whole bunch more rats. So I couldn't take her in, so they just let her go in the wild, and I was like, you can't do that, because the rat's used to safety. It's gonna get eaten in 2 seconds. Like, the only animal that can survive on their own, like that's been domesticated and can survive on their own after, is a cat, because they're weird. They domesticated themselves, actually, which is interesting, but they can survive on their own. Sure, they won't stay out in the wild for a long time because they'll find a new home because they like it better, but they can totally survive on their own, no problem. But you get a dog and try to make him survive on it, try to make a dog survive on their own, they're screwed. Same thing with any sort of domesticated animal, because they don't know how to protect themselves. They don't know how to hunt for themselves anymore. They're so used to having everything done for them. So, yeah. Oh, and PETA. If anyone's a PETA person, quit PETA, because they kill more animals than any other animal shelter. If you're going to support something that rescues animals, do Humane Society or, yeah, I forget the other one, but anyways. So, you know, they actually take care of their animals and everything else and give them all the shots so they don't get sick and everything else. And there's this misconception that if you bring an animal to a shelter, then they're going to die, kind of thing. Like, there's a lot, I've seen a lot of people say that. It's like, well, no, I don't want to, you know, send him to a shelter because then he's going to, you know, they're going to put her or him down. No, they're not, unless you're sending it to a PETA shelter, then yeah, they're gonna put them down. 90% of their animals they kill, by the way. Anyways, no, they will care for them and everything else, and if they are there for a while, then they'll put advertisements in the newspaper, or if they're healthy, they'll even send them to pet stores, such as Petsmart, for example, works with, I don't know about everywhere else, but I know in Ottawa at least, Petsmart works with the Ottawa Humane Society, so that if an animal's been there for a while, they'll actually bring them to Petsmart to sell them faster, and everything else. It's kind of like the animal has, like, they almost never kill the animal because they try very hard, their very hardest to get them a home. So, you know. Oh, and I saw this ridiculous post on Tumblr one time saying that people who eat meat, basically non-vegetarians, non-vegans, shouldn't own pets. Yeah. And someone made a joke, it's like, oh yeah, you know, I make that mistake all the time. I mean, the turkey in the freezer versus the furry cat on the floor, I mean, it's so hard to keep them straight. And then, just as a joke, and someone else made the point of, actually, I think they make better pet owners, because a lot of vegetarians and vegans will feed their carnivorous pets vegetables and put them on a vegetarian diet, even though they're carnivores and aren't built to eat that kind of diet. And all sorts of stuff like that, like. Animal rights activists don't actually give a fuck about animals. Like, the thing with the elephant, she was, like, my cousin and other trainers and everything else were actually encouraging them to come see the elephant and, you know, come to the elephant, and they didn't want to go anywhere near the elephant. They didn't want to even touch the elephant or anything else like that. So it's like, you don't actually, like, care about the elephant. The trainers love the elephant like it's a baby, and, like, when the elephant died, they went into as much mourning as, you know, someone would if a family member did, because the elephant had become their family. It's like, they had a full funeral for the elephant, too, and, like, it's, you know, fuck. So, this video is almost 10 minutes long. So, yeah, basically, I hate animal rights activists who are not actually for animals' rights.